Hey dudes, welcome back to The Bants. As always, I am your host, The Bants, and I hope you guys had a good weekend, but it's now Monday, so it's time for our first What's Happening in Fashion this week, so let's just get right into it. And unfortunately, starting off, we don't have any art stories this week, so we're going to just jump right into fashion. And starting off, artist Ricardo Seco released a small little capsule collection with New Balance where he designed some 574s, and I have to say, I really enjoy them. The colors they chose on the shoes are nice and vivid, and I think they complement each other very well. Aside from that, I really like the juxtaposition of just the nice, clean New Balance look with these kind of more crazy, just loud patterns. So if you are looking for maybe a new comfortable shoe that's just a little bit more out there than what you're used to, I'd say take a look at these. Then Neighborhood dropped some new tech-based jackets, and although I don't really like them visually, I think the concept behind them is very cool. Now, I'm not a huge fan of puffy jackets myself, but if you are, these might be right up your alley. I do like the fact that Neighborhood did put some of their own little details and designs into these jackets as well. But by far the coolest part of these jackets is the fact that they have an internal heating system and it can be recharged via USB port, which I think nowadays pretty much you can find anywhere. So if you are looking for a much warmer jacket for this winter, I definitely look into these. Then the brand In Gold We Trust just put out their newest lookbook for their latest collection, and it's not bad. I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that they decided to use long tees for this collection, especially when you put graphics on long tees. I just don't think that usually works out that well. But even so, the idea behind the collection, this kind of sex sells ideas with naked women on the graphics and stuff like that, it reminds me a lot of pretty much, every company that did that back in the day, like a decade ago, whether it be like I Am King or DGK, or, pretty much every brand that at least had some kind of naked graphic or naked woman graphic on them. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of a cool idea to see it again, and if that's up your alley, I definitely give this a look. Aime Dore also just released a lookbook of their newest hats for Fall Winter 2017, and I have to say, I think they're really cool. Now, there isn't really any special concept behind these hats. It's obviously just the name of the brand embroidered onto the dad cap itself. And I know in the past I've kind of shat on other brands for doing something that's this uninspired. But the difference between those brands and Aime is that they decided to use different fabrics and different materials on these hats. And even though it's not that much different, I think it's a refreshing enough take on the idea that it works, and the price point on it isn't too bad either. So if you are looking for maybe a little bit more of an interesting hat, this is definitely a great place to start. Then Kinfolk released a lookbook for their Fall Winter 2017 collection, and I have to say I'm really unimpressed by it. When I think of Kinfolk as a clothing company, I think definitely more contemporary wear, more clean pieces, maybe a nice graphic here and there, and I don't really feel like I get any of that from this collection. Instead, what I see here is just another brand hopping on that artsy, just bullshit, pseudo-intellectual streetwear bandwagon, and we don't really need any more of that. It's terrible enough as it is. There may be one or two decent pieces here, but overall, I feel like a lot of the graphics don't look like anything better than what you'd find at like a Cotton On or some other bullshit, just little fast fashion store. And what's with this whole idea of just trying to appeal the art ho like aesthetic? That's just, why would you want to do that? So I guess what I'm saying really is just don't look at this lookbook. Hopefully you guys can just do better next time and kind of just fall back on what you're actually good at doing. Then Helas released their Fall Winter 2017 lookbook as well, and I'd say I enjoy most of it. There really aren't too many bad pieces here. I mean, yes, the Space Jam rip is really just utter garbage, and do we really need to see another face mask? But aside from that, everything else is pretty good overall. I really like the contemporary pieces. I really like a lot of the jackets and other pieces of outerwear. The colors are nice. The detailing is clean. Overall, I'm fairly impressed by it. So all I can say is, if you're interested in contemporary, definitely check this out, and hopefully the brand just stays away from streetwear from now on. Then, in holy shit, they're already doing another collaboration news, Kith got together with Arsham Studio to release their new lookbook, and I think it looks fantastic. From the pictures here, we see just a couple pieces, but honestly, I think they did it really well. It's not easy to kind of play around with that prescription kind of style graphic, but I think they pulled it off really nicely here. Looking at this collection, it kind of reminds me of something along the lines of maybe like Damien Hirst meets Margiela meets athletic wear. And although that doesn't really sound like something that would be up my alley, I still really enjoyed this. And if that sounds like it'd be interesting to you too, I'd say definitely check it out. But I do have to give a big warning here. Just because you buy a lab coat doesn't necessarily mean that you can rock a lab coat. So buyer beware. Then Minimal released their Holiday 2017 lookbook and garbage. Fucking trash. You would think by now that people would be just sick of ripoffs of Fear of God, which is already ripoffs. You know what it kind of reminds me of, actually? It's like, you know when you like save a JPEG and then you share that with somebody and they share that with somebody and it just keeps going down the line until it's literally just a bunch of just blurred pixels and just looks like crap? This is the clothing variant of that. So don't waste your time with this. It's just garbage. Then KidSuper released a lookbook for their new collection, and I find it really refreshing, actually. First off, I just have to say, as far as the lookbook goes, I just absolutely adore it. I love the models here, I love the playfulness of it overall, I love the vibe. I think this is what every lookbook just aspires to be. But moving on to the clothes aspect, although personally I wouldn't wear a lot of these pieces, I think they're really creative and enjoyable. I really like a lot of the prints, I really like a lot of the patterns, I really like a lot of the colors, the styles, the silhouettes. I just really like everything about it. So all I gotta say is if you are a fan of maximalism, definitely look into this. There's probably at least one or two pieces worth picking up. Then Alpha Industries and Cords & Co. released a small little corduroy capsule collection together, and I have to say I really like it. If you already didn't guess the idea from the name, what we have here is a bunch of Alpha Industries pieces just made with corduroy as a shell as opposed to nylon or some other material. So if you are a fan of Alpha Industries and are looking for something with a little bit more of a retro vibe, these pieces are going to be right up your alley. Then Givenchy released a lookbook of their pre-fall 2018 collection, and at this point it's just getting pitiful. It's just sad, really. Oh, Ricardo, come back. Please. You made trash, but at least it was better than this. But in all seriousness, I just think right now the main problem with Givenchy is that they just don't know where to go. Like, they don't really have, like, an idea or a path to follow anymore. I think the creators behind it are just kind of recycling old things that Ricardo did, and they do have some new ideas of their own, but they just can't make it coherent. They just have a bunch of different ideas and they're all scrambled and all over the place. And although some of the ideas are actually decent, they only show up in just bits and pieces and small designs here and there. I just hope that Givenchy can at least kind of get a semblance of an idea together and just follow that the same way Ricardo did. I mean, I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, but I mean, they gotta do something better than this. Then Yardsale released their Fall Winter 2017 lookbook, and it's pretty nice. I mean, some of the logos here and some of the graphics are kind of whack, but aside from that, everything else, this kind of like retro-inspired, kind of sleazed look to it, looks really nice and it looks really clean. And I think their use of different materials here is really cool overall. So I think if you are a fan more of that kind of retro look, but not 90s retro, just more maybe like 70s, 80s retro, or even just a fan of maybe sleazecore in general, definitely give this a look. I think you'll enjoy it. Then Funtime released their newest lookbook, and oh look, we got another Cav clone. I can just see the designers in my mind now. Hey, do you know what would be a good idea? What? Let's just completely rip off Cavemp's style and aesthetic. But won't people call us out for that? Yeah, of course. But we can do something to keep people's minds off of that. What? Vetemon's inspired oversized baggy sleeves. Really? So I guess if you're looking for just maybe cheaper Cav Empt, here you go. Alright guys, and with that, let's move on to the articles for the week. And starting off, Hypebeast put out a slew of articles going over just every single trend that was in fashion and style this whole last year of 2017. Hell, they even dedicated one article mostly entirely to normcore. But regarding the 3 articles they did post about all these trends that happened in the last year, I think they're pretty insightful overall. They definitely did their research. And even though I don't necessarily agree with them, not in the sense that they're wrong as far as the trends go, but just because I don't think that some of those trends should be trendy at all, it's still worth reading if you're into that side of fashion, whether you're just interested in trends or the evolving style of fashion, or even you're just in the fashion industry. Definitely worth reading these articles. Then, and although this isn't exactly an article, the YouTube channel Show Studio just put out a nice video interview with Gosha. So if you are a fan of his stuff or want to learn more about him, definitely worth the watch. Pretty cool video. Highsnobiety also put out a very, very well written article based on the history of Supreme and just all the people that surround the brand and some of the kind of forerunners of the brand and just people and other companies and skaters and stuff that were associated with the brand. I can only imagine how much time this took to put together, but definitely super insightful if you're interested in history of streetwear. Definitely worth checking out. Then Helas did a nice little interview with a man named Dixon Rand, who, if you aren't familiar, is what I would consider a chain stitch artisan. And if you aren't familiar with just kind of the history or the arts or craft that goes into chain stitching, just embroideries and things along those lines, definitely give this a read. It really opens up your eyes to a whole world of artisanship and craftsmanship that you might not know about. Then Grail put out another very interesting article kind of going along the lines of how the hip-hop group Outkast helped influence the industry through their style over the years. So if you are interested in either them as just a group or just once again fashion history, style history, give this a look. Grailed also put out another very interesting article about what they consider some of their Air Force One grails of all time. And this is a really cool article, especially if you're a sneakerhead, or especially if you're a younger sneakerhead, you might not know about a lot of these collaborations. Although I do think it's very interesting that they put the Ari menthols in there, because technically those aren't Air Force Ones. But even so, really cool idea overall. And lastly, the New York Times did a nice little article covering Wardrobe NYC, which is a new brand that just started, and basically their whole premise is that, you buy their product and they give you a staple amount of pieces every season that are considered your core basics. So basically they give you like a dozen and a half pieces, and that's all you'll need to wear for the entire season. Very interesting concept, and if you're looking at maybe another way that people are breaking into the industry in their own creative ways, definitely worth a read, might give you a couple new ideas. Alright guys, and with that, we've reached the end of our first whiff for the week. As always, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope you guys had a very good weekend as well. And as always, I've linked all the articles I discussed today in the description below. And if you do have any comments or questions or suggestions for the channel, or as I always say, questions about clothing, fashion, whatever, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And with that, I hope you guys have a good day. I'll see you in the next whiff, and until then, until next time.